and welcome to another edition of the Mayor Dan Paletko Show. I'm very pleased to have as my guest today a person I think is the best Wayne County Commissioner and someone that really does a great service to the city of Dearborn Heights, and it's Commissioner Webb. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you so
everything
much.
You do for Dearborn Heights. I mean, you are a real strong advocate and a fighter for us, so thank you on behalf of all the residents of Dearborn Heights.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, for having me here today, and it's certainly a pleasure working with you. I think it's been our partnership that we've been able to get a lot of good things done here in the community, and I couldn't have done most of them without you. So.
Well, that's nice of you to say. How long have you been on the commission?
I'm in my 10th year.
Really?
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. It flies by, doesn't it?
It does.
How long have you been here?
I think I've been mayor for 13 or 14 years, and I had over 30 on the council, so I've been here for a while.
Oh, I can't compete with that.
That was a long time, and it's gone by quickly. So, what are some of the major issues that the Wayne County Commission is dealing with in the next few weeks?
Well, right now we have our hands full with the Justice Center. So we are going through a step-by-step process where we had to approve a land swap between the city and the county for the old American Motors building on Plymouth Road for the DDOT site in Detroit, where Dan Gilbert wants to build the new Justice Center. And then that had to be approved so they would have the site. And then the next thing they brought to the commission is the approval of the sale of the Gratiot site, which is the partially built jail site that Gilbert wants to buy, that and 6 other parcels there in order to develop the way he wants to. It's next to his Greektown Casino that he's the primary owner of. And then you know, we would be building the Justice Center, the new criminal court, the juvenile detention facility, and the replace all 3 divisions, 1, 2, and 3 jails at that location there off of I-75.
Will that then be the only jail for Wayne County, or because right now, there's a second or a third one?
There's 3 right now, Division 1 and Division 2, which are very in very poor shape.
Yep.
One of them was built in the early 1920s, the other one in the 1980s, but was so overused. I mean, they had such a, they pushed the limits on the capacity of it, and so it really wore it out past its life expectancy. And then Division 3 is in perfectly great condition, but they seem to think that they will, that's the Hamtramck minimum security jail, but they think by consolidating all 3 of them, they'll achieve the most efficiencies.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what's going on right now, and so that's going to be in process until probably June. They're looking to have all their answers by June, and then they'll move forward.
And one that's closer to home, and one that you and I have spent a lot of time on, and I still look back and thank you for having that town hall meeting at the Warren Valley Golf Course, but the sale of Warren Valley to the city of Dearborn Heights,
which was a tremendous success, and thank you for stepping up and your council to purchase it, because we both know that it would have been a disaster if the county executive's plan was able to be rolled out. Selling that property to a private developer to build 250 homes in a gated community when we know it's a FEMA registered floodplain, when we know that that would have limited access to not only the park facility that the taxpayers have been paying for all these years, but the Rouge River, and you know, it would have destroyed the habitat, it would have created an environmental disaster, flooding issues for those residents. So I really commend you all. I mean, I may have stopped them from selling it to the developer, but if you guys wouldn't have come in and swept it up, you know, that's something that we could have faced next year and the year after that and the year after that. So your move, the city's move, to secure that asset and take control of that asset so you don't have to continually be worried about that threat in future years was a smart move. So I'm glad that we were able to partner together.
Yeah, I was fearful that the costs, because the water accumulates in Edward Hines Park and at the golf course, to take that amount of water and build retention basins and upgrade the sewage system would have far exceeded 1.8 million, which is what the city purchased it for. So the taxpayers of Dearborn Heights might very well have had to spend 10 or 15 million dollars to handle. And while there would have been some additional tax revenue, the impact on the community would have been overwhelming. And who's to say? I don't know that it would necessarily have been positive. And so it was extremely important. And it's our firm commitment as a community to continue it as a golf course and a banquet center, so people can rest assured. And when it's in the control of Dearborn Heights, it'll be the local officials that will have the control. And so consequently, the people will have control of what ultimately ever gets done there. But my hope is it remains as it is. Might want to do some improvements to the course, might want to do some improvements to the banquet center, but it'll be a golf course and a banquet center as it is today.
And I think that's wonderful. And I really think the most important piece to this whole issue, the problematic solution, was that government did what government's supposed to do, and that was listen to the people.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that doesn't happen enough in the world today, everywhere. But I think that we do our best to do that. That's why we wanted to hold the town hall, so that we could hear from the people. And I got to give the residents of Dearborn Heights huge kudos, because they were instrumental in helping me stop it at the county. I mean, we launched a letter writing campaign, and they certainly did their part. I think they flooded the offices of the county executive and the commissioners with over 2,000 emails. And sometimes that's what has to happen. People need to pay attention, and so that they can help us fight. I'm one vote out of 15, and I think if he could have just slid it past us, he certainly was going to try to do that. But with the public outcry, the way it was, the Friends of the Rouge, the blog,
yes. The environmental groups were very supportive, and
they were.
And a couple of your colleagues told me, please, can you stop the emails and the letters and everything else? And it was, we're not in control. This is how deeply the people of Dearborn Heights, the community around there, feels, and they're hugely motivated. I couldn't tell them stop sending letters. Plus, I knew it was effective, and
yes,
as you well know. And so it really was a success in a multitude of ways. But like you said, democracy worked in this case.
It certainly did. And isn't that a breath of fresh air? And I really think that, I hope that also, and I do believe it has impacted the people that way from the feedback I'm getting from some of the residents, that, they feel very good about the fact that they were empowered, they acted on it, and they made a difference.
Yes.
And I think that goes a long way, because, people so oftentimes feel like, oh, you can't fight the system,
Yep.
And why should I vote? Because it doesn't matter. Or why should I participate? Because it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, especially in a day when we're seeing less and less media, right?
Yes.
And so the only thing that they can rest assured on, and they need to exercise their power to do, is it's the people's vote that puts electeds in office. So if they exercise their rights, and they work the democratic process like that, they can make all the difference in the world. And they did it in this case. They were successful in this case. And I literally have them writing me, telling me, well, let me know if you need us again. And I say, all right, it's great to have them on our side and in our corner. And I think if you listen to your people and you back them, they'll back you. So we were fortunate.
Very, very successful. Now, one of the things that you've also been a key person is making sure that Dearborn Heights and the other communities, both Livonia and Redford Township, that you also represent, get their fair share of some of the revenues that take place. And you're kind of our watchdog on there watching this stuff. So you've got some monies that and projects that you have gotten allocated to the three communities. Would you want to fill us in on some of those?
Well, I'm really pleased that you're seeing the property values go up, and this is increasing the revenues, of course, from millages, and that's coming back to the community, increasing the allotments that Dearborn Heights is getting in the way of parks, for example. So I think it's gotten down under 35,000 at one time. Now we're seeing it back up to nearly 38,000, and you know, of course, it. Property values can fall like a rock, but because of the Headley Amendment and the way that works, it takes a while for those values to come back up. But I think it's an excellent indication of, number one, the increased property values in the city of Dearborn Heights, and actually throughout my district. We're seeing like 30% values in homes increasing over the last 3 or 4 years, up to a little over 30%. So we're seeing that reflected in the millage as well. And so we will be giving almost $38,000 to the city of Dearborn Heights in the way of parks millage, which I understand is going to be allocated this year in Swapka Park for improvements there. So that's exciting news.
Yeah, and this money has been utilized. We built a splash park with money. And
that was my first year.
Yeah.
I remember cutting the ribbon.
and I believe it's also gone into some tennis court restoration and other projects. So it has been very, very beneficial. I know that one of the things Ken Greibel keeps talking to me about is the fascination with, I think it's called pickleball.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
the new thing.
We might be utilizing some of that money for a pickleball court. So it's interesting how times have changed, although I think tennis is still popular. But when you go around to some of our recreation facilities, and if you'd looked like 15 years ago, they've changed because people's requests and demands for things have changed. And so we tried to change with them and improve, but that has been very beneficial. And then we're also looking at quite a few road improvements that are possibly going to be going on and around the community. I know to get outside my house, I have the Ford Road construction, which we're happy to see, but is difficult. I stop at the post office, and they're redoing the entire Dearborn Heights post office on Ford Road. So it looks like we're into the orange barrel season all around. But a couple of the projects are county, so we want to thank you. And you have fought very, very hard to get some of our roads on that list, both with MDOT and the county. So I want to thank you publicly for that.
Thank you so very much. And I'll tell you, that is really a difficult one because the state is just really underfunding roads. And the problem is, you know, SEMCOG, the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, said that it would take $1.1 billion a year for 4 years to get all the roads in Wayne County in good condition. So if you remember, I gave you that one roads map, and I think it's been put up on your channel or your website, so people can see what the conditions of roads are all over Wayne County. And of course, every community deals with their own, and you know that the two biggest sore spots of recent years has been Beach Daily and Joy Road. So we are happy to see that on the 2018 construction project that they are listed. Now they're listed for September, which is the end of the year, and it's partial. It's the Beach Daily from Ford to Warren, and just a small piece of Joy Road east of Telegraph. So is it ever all that we want it to be and as fast as we want it to be? Nowhere in Michigan is it when it's funded so poorly. So, I mean, I'm glad to see that they are finally making the lists. I am hopeful that they will get to it this construction season. You know, if it ends up being next construction season, I guess we'll have to grit that out. But, you know, we're going to keep pushing hard to get them done, as much of them as we can get done, as fast as we can get them done. And so I know that I've been telling your community, I've been telling your residents, call them in, call them in, call them in.
Yep.
And they have been. And I think it's working.
Oh, it is. I had so much confidence in you that one of the things I did is we didn't want to have simultaneously or redo the water line on Beach Daily after the street got repaired because we had been tearing up the same thing. And then you get residents who say, boy, can't you guys plan this better? You just tore
Right.
this up and then you retore.
Yeah.
So we have now finished the water line from Warren Avenue to Beach. We had done
wonderful.
Warren to Haas, but we had not gone south of that. And I urged my group, let's go ahead and finish this and then we have it done. But I had confidence you might get us some money, so
Wow,
I
thank
did.
you.
I wanted to make sure it was done before the road got improved, because
Yes.
that water line runs right parallel with Beach Daily, and there's no way to repair one without tearing up the other, and it would have looked terrible if the road got done and then we tear it all up. And
Right. So good moving. I'm glad you got ahead of that.
well, that was
good.
because I had confidence in you.
Yeah,
that-
well,
that
you're a
you'd
good
help us
planner.
out.
I think that's because you've been around the block a couple times and you know how to strategize and get those things in place just in case. So that was a good move.
The other thing, you've been extremely helpful, and I've received so many nice compliments, is, and while they may be things that will bug a group of residents or a neighborhood, I think it was, trying to think, but I think it was former Speaker of the House said all politics is local. Can't think of
Yes.
his name right now, but
Dylan. Probably was it Dylan?
no, it was
one before
McCormick
Oh, okay.
in Congress.
Oh.
Because someone came up to him with some problems, and he said, you know, all politics is local, and if you don't take care of what's in the front of the street of the person, it's going to filter all the way through.
That's right.
But my point is that you've helped us out, sometimes getting the county to mow areas of grass that got unsightly. You've managed to be able to take care of blockages in Ecorse Creek and the Rouge River and others. And it's just, you don't, I think, get as much credit as you should, but it's those items that I know residents bring to your attention. And while we learn of it, because oftentimes they'll call me and they'll say, can you get this blockage out? And I say, well, I can't. The city is forbidden under a multitude of obligations and laws. We have to go to the right party, and many times it is the county that's been designated as the person. But your influence, your staying with that particular person gets those things done. I know a couple times you ended up helping us get streets salted that we thought we were having a lot of accidents and other problems during the winter. But
Thank you.
your office did it. You do so many, and I don't even know, I probably know like 2% of what you've done, but I think it goes, and it's important to mention how your service and what you do, you've made everything local, so to speak, and take care of that person who had to look at those tall weeds every day when they looked outside their house, and then magically gets taken care of.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, I think you just put yourself in those people's shoes, right? And you try to be the elected official that you would want as your own elected
Yes.
official, right? So I think that that's the number one job that we do as electeds, is be responsive to the people within our jurisdictions and, you know, within our means. We obviously don't always have the funding we need or the resources we need, or maybe it's something that the state handles, and you know, I won't stop there. I'll reach out no matter who it is. We reached out to MDOT and got those crossing lights on Ford Road, and
Yep.
got some provisions made for the disabled population in the community. And you know, and sometimes you have to reach out, and sometimes you can make it happen. Sometimes it's just outside your reach, but I sure do give it 100% every day, and it's the most rewarding work in the world, I think.
One person I miss, and I know she used to call you all the time, is Marge Horvath. And Marge used to watch so many of those items, still does. We receive calls from her yet. But she was always on top of that stuff. And I don't know if people called her or she was just driving out and saw it, but
Both.
she was very effective also. And I know
She
that
was wonderful.
She is not afraid to call. And so we miss you, Marge, if you're watching this show. You were will always be one of the better councilmen that we've ever had in Dearborn Heights. So.
Amen to that. I feel the same way. I really do miss having.
And I miss Joe Kaczynski
I miss
too.
Joe too, and both of them were watchdogs, and they were on top of everything. They didn't miss a trick, neither
Yep.
one of them, and they still contact me, whether it's via phone call or email, or if they're concerned about something. I think it's just so ingrained. You spend
Yep.
as many years as a public servant as they did. They notice everything. They can't go to church on Sunday and not see that lift in the sidewalk or whatever, that pothole in the road or that tree limb hanging over, or, they pay attention. So, and they'll call me in.
Even though they're not elected, they're still working for all of us as residents in Dearborn Heights. So we really are pleased. So
That's so true.
I think giving kudos to them is just appropriate. So.
Absolutely, that is so true, and all the years they gave of service is really, really commendable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find that the kind of legacies. Well, I mean, even with yourself, look how many years you've been in office and how many years they've been in office. That's a tremendous contribution to the public good. And if you really take those jobs and you take the pay and you divide it by the hours, they probably made a nickel an hour.
Oh,
right?
There's a good reason that if you're doing your job and you're doing it properly and you're honest, you do not get rich from these jobs. You just can't. If nothing else, one of the items that I find, it was a little bit easier, but it is starting to a little bit wear on me when I have evening events 3 or 4 days in a row. That fourth day, a lot of times I'm starting to get slow down as I'm getting older, but that's the other part. I talked to some children in school recently, and one of the things is they asked me, like, what's a normal day? And I just said, well, let me tell you what I'm doing today and what I did yesterday. And they were shocked, and I said, well, there's an administrative part to this job, and then there's the social, because you get a report card every 2 or 4 years, so you have to get enough votes to get reelected, and that means you have to go out and deal. And I enjoy meeting with people. I've always encouraged when I go out to eat, if they come up, which they often do, I enjoy that. But sometimes the fourth evening of events, I'm older than you are, but I find that sometimes I look and I go, I hope I have enough strength and energy for that fourth night.
I completely understand, because my schedule looks just like yours.
Yeah.
And the thing is if you're not out in the public with the people, you can't. You don't hear from them, so you can't represent them if you don't know what they're thinking. And like you say, they'll stop you wherever you are, and they'll say, hey, Mayor, or hey, Commissioner, do you know about this? Do you know about that? And that's how I get a lot of good information, and I know what is important to them. And that's how we do what we do well. So, yeah, it's certainly not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, is it?
No, and I'll share this. It just happened a couple weeks ago when for reading month, which I believe is February, so I go to a lot of the schools and read a book, and I tell the youngsters that if you see me around, and bring your mom and dad up to me, introduce me, because we're all friends now. We've read a book together and we've spent an hour together. So a girl took me up on that. So all of a sudden, like, I look up from my meal and the woman says, I want to apologize. I don't want to interrupt your meal. I said, no, that's okay. And she goes, my daughter keeps saying she knows you. And of course, you can't always remember everybody, but that was the clue, because I do that traditionally. And I said, oh yeah, we're good friends. And her big smile got on her face. And she goes, see, I told you, Mom. And so she told the mom, I know the mayor, and the mayor's a good friend of mine. So it was, but they gave me an opportunity to talk with her parents a little bit. We actually talked about a couple of issues that were important to them in the neighborhood. But yeah, you're always 24/7. You're always on duty, if you will. But I don't find that a problem at all. I always say it's a problem when people stop coming up to me and want to talk to me. Then I got a problem.
You're absolutely right.
But I've encouraged that, and a couple times people sat down and so gave me company during dinner. So I thought that was like really good. So I people in Dearborn Heights are great people, and yeah, that's how we get to know what's on their mind.
Yep, and that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yes. Well, you've been a great guest. You are the best commissioner. You're one of the best elected official, if not the best in this area. And I've told a couple students that that think when they get a little bit older, they'd like to run for office. And I've said that you would be an excellent example, but don't run against Commissioner Webb or look out. And they say, oh no, we wouldn't run it. But you just do such a great service, and I think that's recognized by people in Dearborn Heights, but if anybody out there is watching that doesn't recognize it, I can't emphasize that enough. She's the best. I'm so glad you're running unopposed. You deserve that, and keep up the good work, and I look forward to continuing working with you because you're the best.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you.
And I would like to thank everybody out in the audience for watching another edition of the Mayor Dan Paletko Show, and thank Diane Webb as my guest, Commissioner Diane Webb.